Hey everyone, this is Olay from Laddering Your Success, and you're listening to the LYS Podcast. Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. We are back once again for another Sunday of LYS Free Student Mentoring. My name is Olay Sharunki, here with Festus and our good friend Jamar Crawford. Guys, how y'all doing today?
Doing excellent. I got some donuts and a cinnamon roll and a biscuit sandwich. You know what I'm saying? So doing great.
I tell you what, ain't nothing like them weekend sandwiches.
Yeah,
with some iced coffee.
Oh man,
all the teachers got me hooked on that iced coffee. Now I'm not even gonna lie to you.
What is it? Well, I don't know, because for me, iced coffee hadn't just settled in yet, because it make me go to the bathroom right now. Are you talking about you? Look at your fork. I know I ain't the only one, bro. That cold coffee make you just, you know.
Really? It runs through y'all?
Shoot. Now it depends. I think if it's regular coffee that you make cold versus if it's supposed to be iced coffee. And I don't know, but I know that's what we tell people in the hospital too. Like, you know, when I was working in the hospital and they like, man, I'm backed up. I'd be like, hey man, get that cold coffee. I know that's not what we're talking about this episode, but yeah.
No worries, man. Jamark, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right, my brothers. I'm doing all right.
Good, man. Good to hear. We got Daniel here. I'm sure he'll be coming in pretty soon. But today, yes, we're going to be talking about culture and how do we take actionable steps, right? With the be, no, do. Really want to start talking more about the be, no, do methodology and how to actually implement it in our lives, how to use it, right? And on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a yearly basis, to see the growth, right? To see the progress that we have as we're working with laddering our success, all right? So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. As always, folks, if you want to get in contact with us, if you want to take a look at our content on Instagram, you can go to LYS Students, or you can go to _L. Just type in Laddering Your Success in the search bar. Folks, if you are a teacher, if you are an educator, if you are an administrator, counselor, Laddering Your Success has a plethora of resources, workshops, apps, you name it, that we offer to help students, to help teachers, to help parents, to help anyone who is trying to better themselves or find their purpose. Laddering Your Success has plenty of resources to help. I think one of the most important things that we have is actually our LYS Teachers app, which actually creates lesson plans that take the 7 attributes or tenets that we follow here at Laddering Your Success: social, cultural, financial, educational, spiritual, vocational, and this always happens to me, but luckily I have the book right here: spiritual, financial, educational, social, cultural, vocational, and health. There it was, and health. And creates lesson plans that are geared towards those 7 tenets or those 7 attributes, and actually provides real life examples and real life application, right, of what we're talking about. So I think that is a very wonderful resource that LYS offers. We also do workshops. We have guidebooks. We have scholarship ebooks. Those of you who are entering your sophomore, honestly, your freshman, your sophomore, your junior, definitely your senior, and those of you that are even in college, LYS has plenty of resources there to help you so you can limit that cost of college and put yourself in a better position to start moving forward, right? And finding your sense of purpose, finding your purpose, and actually fulfilling that purpose. A lot of people don't realize this. That's actually how one of the causes or one of the things that kind of led us to starting Laddering Your Success. I think one of the things that Festus really looked at was the student loan debt crisis. Hello, right? With all that talk now about student loan forgiveness and all these other things, before the idea of student loan debt and student loan debt forgiveness came about, people were just having to sit with these huge balances in their accounts, right? In their Sally Mae accounts. Everyone remembers Sally Mae. They always changing the name.
Mm-hmm.
And then, man, it went from Sally Mae. Gosh, I can't remember the name right now. Before it was Advantage. There was another name there, right? Festus looked and he said, you know, it was around 50, somewhere between 50 and 60% of the people who work in the workforce with a college degree, their degree has nothing to do with what they were currently doing in their job. And we started to say, why is that happening? What's this system that we're living in that's creating this notion that you have to go to college? It's a must, that if you don't go to college, you won't be successful. When looking at many of the billionaires that we have, especially in this country, a lot of them did not go to college. So what exactly are they getting access to that students who are going to college and spending thousands of dollars are not getting? And so that's kind of where Laddering Your Success started.
Man, you are spitting some hot facts today. Some hot facts. We barely even open it up and you spitting hot facts. You know what? Let me let you finish doing the introduction because I want to hop in on some of those things that you just mentioned, man. Because again, it's so key. It's so key. So
Absolutely.
Let me let you finish up.
For sure. On YouTube, same thing. Just type it in on the search bar, Laddering Your Success. On TikTok, LYS Be No Do. Can't wait. We got some great content coming out for you there. And we have not forgotten TikTok. We coming for you. We coming for you. Look at him. Look at Mike. Mike's coming for you. If you want to send us an email about workshops, about the app, about a personal problem, something that you're dealing with, we are here for all of that. Send us an email at info@ladderingyoursuccess.com. On Discord, actually, I got to set up a meeting for this so we can get this going. Discord coming soon. This is going to be for all the people that we serve, all the people that get access to LYS resources, educators, parents, teachers, mentors, admin, everyone, right? And lastly, if you love what we're doing, if you've been rocking with us, if you've been seeing us on Facebook and you like it, or if you've been seeing us on Facebook and you're like, oh, those guys are at it again, and you scroll past us, or you see the little synopsis summary of what we're talking about, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. If you've watched 2 seconds of what we've done and you've liked it, go ahead, send us a little something on Cash App, $ Laddering Your Success. This is going to go towards us moving forward with marketing, with more resources, creating better resources that will go out there and help our young people. You know, I'm going to, before I let Festus talk, I want to tell one more quick story. I was driving back home today and I saw a student that looked very familiar from my first year of teaching. And just to go to show you that I know we always have these moments that validate our purpose, right? So I'm driving and I see this kid and I'm like, is that who I think? Is that student? And this student was we clashed heads a lot. He just would, for whatever reason, he thought that me and him were on the same level and that he did not have to treat me with any level of respect, which Mr. Charunki, just like Hall & Oates says, I can't go for that. No can do. But I saw him and I when I say I pulled a Yui like Festus driving Peaky working for Fuzzy's Pizza. That's if you know, you know. That's if you know, you know. Driving Ashley, driving Redman, doing a straight Yui. I didn't do a U-turn. I pulled a Yui, and I'm looking for this kid. And I pulled all the way back, and I'm looking for him. And I see the kid, and I basically look like a creeper, which I really didn't care about.
Oh, chill out, bro.
Hey, look. God knows my heart, okay? God knows my heart. So I'm like, that's why I'm so glad I have my ID, my teacher ID right there. Like, what do you do? Teacher, I'm a teacher. Please don't hurt, I'm a teacher. But I saw him and it wasn't him, but I just remember I wasn't anxious. It wasn't anxiety. I was just like, I wanted to see him to see how he was doing. I had $3 in my little cubby. I just wanted to give it to him. I just wanted to tell him how proud I was of him. I just wanted to make sure he was okay, right? And so it just had those moments that validate your purpose. Folks, those of you out there, if you find yourself doing things like that about particular things, and you see that pattern, life is all about patterns, folks. If you see yourself doing that, you might be moving towards your purpose. And that's kind of a message to yourself that you may want to keep moving towards that. But I've said enough. Festus, go ahead, talk about some things. You said you were going to talk about some stuff.
Yeah, as we're just talking about culture and we're talking about like this whole concept that you brought up, like a couple key things about why we got started, you know, a lot of people are harping on or focus on student loan debt as if paying off student loan debt is going to give people purpose. Like, and that's something, I know it sounds so simple, but it's really profound. Just because your debt is gone doesn't mean you have purpose now. It doesn't mean you have meaning. And that's a big mistake that I think that we're making, especially, I'm just going to be straightforward with it, Black culture. Like, one thing I'm noticing with a lot of Black culture, and again, LYS, we want to embrace all people, want to help all people move forward, but because we're Black, you know, I can't be not pro-Black, right? You know, it's just that's what it is, right? And so the thing is that we attach to certain narratives that do not actually fit where we're actually at as a people group or as a culture, right? It might fit where you're at as an individual, but it probably doesn't fit overall where we're at, right? Like, and what I mean by that is, like, you know, you got people who come in, people, oh, slavery was so long ago, whatever. Civil rights wasn't that long ago. And if you look at it, civil rights came off of the back of Jim Crow. Jim Crow came off of the back of Reconstruction, right? So it's a chain of events. And there was two big voices, W.E.B. Du Bois and what's his name? Man,
Booker T.
What's that?
Booker T.
Booker T. Washington. And the argument between the two of them was W.E.B. Du Bois's talented 10th and Washington's 5 fingers of connection, right? Basically saying, look, we could be a subclass doing menial jobs and not really connect with the wider, you know, the wider audience, the wider people group in the United States, whatever, right? But both of their ideas connected with meaning and purpose and jobs, right? And so Du Bois came up with this concept of the double consciousness of Black people, right? That you're always subliminally held to this point of being conscious that you're Black. So everybody else gets to just be an American, but you get to be a Black American, right? So why does all that make sense, and why does all that? Because the thing is, in order to move a people forward, you have to be highly, highly intentional, right? People don't succeed on accident. Students don't succeed on accident, right? It takes a lot of purpose. It takes a lot of drive and intentionality to be successful. And so if you're going off in these different narratives that don't really belong to you, right, as a people group, you get caught, you're off track. And when you're off track, you know, you're saying, oh, I need to go to college in order to be successful, when just like you said, hey, there's other ways of being successful. And don't get me wrong, because a lot of people, the big problem is they tie up culture of education with intelligence, right? There's a lot of degreed idiots, okay? There's a lot of degreed idiots, you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that we have to really look at, because I think in this season, as we're trying to recover from COVID, people are trying to move forward, there has to be a ton of intentional leadership, and leadership starts with leading yourself. So again, you got me riled up this morning with some of the things that you said. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah. Because you talked about leading yourself. And when you think about what we got going on right now, right? We have a breakdown in leadership in so many facets, right? At all levels, there's a breakdown of leadership. And if you want to know why a lot of things are going the way they're going, just look at the leadership, you know, the fact that they're not able to lead. I think LYS, those 3 things we talk about, humility, discipline, and integrity, we're lacking a lot of those things. So definitely something to keep. Very good point to make there. All righty. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, okay, as we get into today's topic, I want to set a definition of culture from the LYS book. Is that cool?
Hey, I'm right there with you. Hey, LYS fam, it's Olay. Thanks so much for listening to LYS. I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk to the parents. That's right, mom and dad. Parents, prepare your child for their best educational fit after high school with our comprehensive LYS Parents Guidebook. Our helpful guide includes a range of activities designed to help you better understand your child's unique gifts and abilities. Additionally, we provide valuable insights into the student loan debt crisis and offer practical tips on how to avoid accumulating large amounts of debt. Our ebook also includes a wealth of information on scholarships, grants, and payment exemptions that can help guide your child towards a bright and successful future. With our expert guidance, you can rest assured that your child is well prepared to make informed decisions about their education and career path. Don't let your child's future be in jeopardy. Invest in their future today by downloading the LYS Parents Guidebook. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to the show because you know it's some good topics. So as we talk about culture, like Festus said, it's the first sentence in the culture section of Laddering Your Success. Culture is the set of learned behaviors that govern a people group in a given period. All right. Key thing to understand here, culture fluctuates. Culture fluctuates, right? The way it is 100 years ago is not the way it is now, right? It's not the way it's going to be 100 years from now. One of the key components of the knowledge that you need in order to be successful is the culture that you are living in. Regardless of your knowledge of social circles, the culture is the cup that your juice is being poured into. So let me read this last part too. Culture can be very diverse and it has many nuances to it. There are 4 key components to culture. They are language, location, tradition, and history. We're going to be going into in a little bit, but I just wanted to talk about 2 things and then we'll continue. First thing I wanted to talk about was that second to the last sentence that says culture can be very diverse, right? And when I think about the city that we live in, for those of you who don't know, we live in the great city of Houston, Texas, or as I used to say when I was younger, Houston Plexus. I don't know why I said that. It was part of I was listening to a lot of Swisher House at the time, and it was just something that came into my head. But yes, we live in Houston, Texas, and Houston is an extremely diverse city, one of the most, if not the most diverse city in the country, you could say. But one of the things that I will say is, I think our generation, those of us in our 30s and even in, let's say 30s, early 40s and younger, we have learned to be diverse, but also intertwine and respect other cultures. You know, we'll go eat pho. You know, we go to Indian restaurants, and we go to different, South American, Mexican, a lot of things has to do with cuisine because Houston is a food city, right? But one of the things I've kind of noticed, especially for like the older culture and a lot of the ways that the city is kind of designed, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, it's very diverse, but it's not similar. It's not like East Coast where it's like blended, if that makes sense. It's very like, oh, this is the African area here. This is the Indian area here. This is the Hispanic area. This is the Chinese area here. You don't really see a lot of blending. So it's diverse in the idea that there's a lot of different cultures, right? But it's not that true sense of the word diverse. I think diverse can kind of confuse us because we think, oh, it's diverse, so people are hanging out. You do get a lot of that, but for the most part, things are kind of separated, right? They're still kind of separated. They're there, but you don't see a lot of interaction between those things. I say all that to say, there's a story I'm going to preface this with. My brother actually called me yesterday, and he said, hey man, I want to talk to you about something. I was like, hey, what's up? And he said, I've been helping a friend drive and, teaching her how to drive or whatever. And we were sitting in the car and these kids were playing. I guess they didn't see us. And one of the kids, he said, they're about 11, 12 years old. And one of them came because they kicked the ball near the car, but they didn't know that my brother and his friend were in the car. And so the kid came, and when he saw them, he got startled. He was like, ah! He screamed, And one of the friends was like, "What's wrong? Why'd you do that? What's going on?" And he was like, "Oh, sorry." He was like, "Oh, it's because they were black." And I guess my brother heard it, but the friend that he was with did not hear it, and they kind of ran back. And so my brother was kind of taken aback by that. He was like, "What does that mean?" And so as he's telling me this, I'm like, there's so many different things that, you know, you can make all the assumptions in the world, but you may not really know, what happened or what went on. And so, I guess my brother told his friend, and the friend was like, "No, you need to confront them, and you need to tell them that what they did was wrong, and this, that, and the third." And as he's telling, I'm like, "No, I don't think that would help." When he told me what he did, I was like, I think he did the right thing. He kind of just went out. He got out the car and he helped them out. And he was just like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle you guys. I hope we didn't freak you out." And the kids were so apologetic. They were like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know this, that, and third, yada, yada, yada." And so they went back to their, to their business or whatever. And so it kind of reminded me about this thing, because me and him had this conversation. And for those of you who don't know, I think one of the key principles that we abide by here is truth and honesty and openness and transparency. And so I think that's what we're missing out a lot of. We're on the call with Jamar Crawford and Daniel Hill. So shout out to you, Daniel Hill. Shout out to you, Jamar Crawford. And that's one of the things we always talk about, is just being open, honest, and transparent. And so one of the things I notice is that a lot of times you'll have, if we're talking about learned behaviors, a lot of times, most of the times, we get a lot of our learned behaviors from the older people that we live with at home, right? And so you may be watching the news, and your parent may say something about a particular ethnicity or a particular race. These such and such always doing this, these such and such always doing that. And then, that kind of does something to you, right? It's like, yeah, maybe they're always doing that, right? But what I've noticed is you may hear one thing at home, but when you actually live and go out and live your life, you notice that those things that your parents are saying aren't necessarily true. It's not every single person of this type, this ethnicity, this race that does this. It's not every single one that's causing this problem or doing this or doing that. I think one of the things that we have all realized is that there are bad people everywhere, right? Of every race, of every ethnicity. And so when we talk about culture, that's a very important key thing, right? Especially when you live in a very diverse area. And like I said, they're diverse, but they're still kind of separated, right? And so it's very easy to get mixed signals in a lot of those aspects. So I kind of just wanted to throw that out there to you guys. Personal experiences that we've seen with that, learned behaviors, what role does family play, and how does that play out in the real world, I'll say, if that makes sense. Just let me know if you want me to clarify.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing Jamark and Daniel's perspectives.
Oh, well, shoot, man. Like, especially now, man, you see it plays a big role. Because no matter what people read, whatever they see that's true, if somebody else tells them something, they sure gonna believe. They could have 1,000 good white friends and 1,000 good black friends, but if somebody shows them one black person, then they're like, "Oh yeah, all black people are terrible." Like I said, I kind of like what he said when he talked about how parents and stuff have influence. Like, this isn't really like racism and all that, but it's about like the parent told the kid, I might have told one time, told the kid that if he just passed his test, he would pass 5th grade. Now I told this kid every day, you gotta pass your classes, you gotta pass all the tests, and you gotta do your homework. He still did my work, but everybody else, no. My mama said I ain't gotta do that. Next year, he come to me, "Miss Hill, you know what?" Because he was held back. "You were right." "Fool, yeah, I know I was right. I've been teaching for 10 years. What do you think?" But then, like you said, then the opposite way, this one woman, this kid was about to pass out. She was running in the little sprint thing, and she saw her mama, and she looked up, and her mama encouraged her, and she got all her energy back and took off running. So yeah, family play a big part, man, because a lot of people, think about it, the only way kids learn, like we saw a video, was that y'all? I saw a video of a kid cussing out people and throwing the middle finger based off of pro-life and pro-choice. Now they 8 years old. Like, bro, they don't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, family play a big role, bro.
Wow. Jamark, like, y'all want me to hop on this topic? Yeah, we want to hear what you got to say, man.
Man, a culture. I think the key word is learn behaviors. Learn behaviors. Man, I don't even know where to start. Man. I just look at our people and I feel like we are our biggest own enemies. If I just be honest, we block ourselves from greatness. Recently this week, without getting too much detail, there was a situation at work, and in climate and culture of people in social media, right? There was a situation, and so in which unknowingly announced to me, my name was a part of, right? I have no clue. But, and again, I just want to focus on learned behaviors in our culture, right? So immediately, whenever this information comes across a parent, instead of having a conversation to retrieve facts and information, it's let's react to the situation in the most irrational way possible. Again, learned behavior. And so I feel like I'm all for any culture, whatever they need to do to protect their family, right? But I also feel like in any situation that we're dealing with in life, education, we have to have a sense of reason and a sense of sensibility when handling situations. And so when you have people going up to any institution, educational, professional, whatever it may be, and we behave in a manner that is irate, again, we make ourselves look like the monkeys that they think we are. Because, not to dismiss any person's feelings of anger and stress, right? But the reason and the sensibility that comes with our actions is so powerful. And then we are leading by example, and this is the tone that we're setting for our offspring or the people of the future to act. Again, learned behaviors. So where do we break and actually educate our kids? I'm not talking about the public school system. I'm talking about instill integrity, sensibility, reason, emotional intelligence to our offspring or to our children of the future. And so these are the things that really concern me, because these are our future doctors, our lawyers, our future educators. You know, when we get old, we have to look upon these future whatever prospects in these careers to take care of us. And it's like the cycle is forever going and going and going, but yet we complain and talk about how we're not breaking any ground or making progress as a people. I just leave it at that.
Man, that was really, really powerful. And one thing that I kind of took away from what you're saying is like the nuance between culture and community. You know, it's like you can have a culture, but not necessarily a community. And I think that's a huge difference, because, you know, we listen to those people who are influencers of culture, you know. And, you know, I remember that whole, y'all remember the whole thing where, what was it, Kanye West and Big Boy? And he's like, he was like, yo, Kanye West, what you think about the people said you turn your back on the culture? And Kanye is like, absolutely. I changed my mind on victimhood mentality. You remember that interview? So, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, that's the thing that is funny to me, is that what Kanye is trying to head towards, at least what it seemed like, was like community over culture. You know what I'm saying? And oftentimes we try to let the culture dictate our community, and we just pick up all these learned behaviors. So, and the way I took that from what Jamark was saying, the story he laid out, is like the learned behavior is, if you feel disrespected, turn up. Like that's just the equivalent. So it don't matter where it is, I'm gonna show up in my bonnet, I'm gonna show up in my basketball shorts, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a whoop-de-whoop-de-woo, whatever, you know? And it's like, okay, that's a learned behavior from a cultural standpoint. But I think, again, the deeper part of what Jamark was saying was, has that gotten anything done for anybody, right? And the answer is no. All it does is bring out cameras and stuff like that, and then people turn up, and a lot of people don't look at the after effects of that 15 minutes of fame or whatever, 15 seconds of turn up. It's like, okay, did that improve your child's status or your child's well-being? A lot of people don't look at the subconscious. Again, this is why we try to push being first, character, values, principles first, because here it goes in a nutshell for any parent or anybody who's hearing this. Now that you've turned up, how do those people look at your kid in that environment on a day-to-day basis? Do you think now the educators are going to spend extra time with your child when they need help? Or are they going to be like, you know what, last week, last month, last semester, such and such turned up on, you know what I'm saying? And so that then now puts your child in a box, affecting their future opportunities of even just learning, just basic learning. Just kind of like Olay said, you know, he driving, he see a kid that he thinks is a student, he like, yo, I'm gonna turn around and help him. But don't you think it's also in people's minds where they see that same kid and be like, I remember when such and such's mom or dad came and turned up. you remember how 50 Cent was in the fence on the window shopper? You know what I'm saying? And they hitting the gas. They like, yo, I'm chugging the deuce. But anyway, Olay, please.
That's such a, man, definitely both powerful points. I think, you know, when we talked about Black culture, what y'all said was powerful about culture influencing community. When you think about values, principles, and characters, right? Character traits. I'm going to say 3 names, and I want to quickly go over kind of the mindset, right? Bill Cosby, Will Smith, Deshaun Watson. A lot of those, because of our history, right? That Bill Cosby is someone we consider to be America's dad. And I think that was such a powerful moment for Black people, because we got to hold ourselves accountable, right? Why were we in the position where he was raising millions of us in a sort of way, right?
Talk that
because
talk.
For a lot of us, that's who he was. He was, I mean, he was America's dad. So even when all those women came out with those accusations, we were still like, man, but you know, when someone calls you over, you should know it's Hollywood. It's a this place, it's that place. Your community has values and principles, and those way higher than the actions of one person. And what you see is a lot of pride, right? A lot of arrogance that causes things like that. Will Smith, another example, culture, right? A big cultural figure, a big cultural icon. He has some issues, you know, lifestyle, whatever. And people want to bring it up. You know, it's sad, you know, everyone has a comment. Values, principles. I think it was beautiful because we had to pull the veil and we got to see these people don't live the lives that we live. Yet we let them dictate how we want to raise our kids, how we want to live our lives.
Bro.
What are your values? What are your principles? Last one, Deshaun Watson. This one's personal for me because I said this one's personal. They're all personal, but this was really personal because, you know, at the time I was a super Houston Texans fan, and I'm thinking that's the guy to lead us to the promised land. As soon as those accusations came out, I was like, man, it's a setup.
Yeah. That's tough.
It's tough. It's a setup, right? They're trying to bring him down, man, because he wants to lead the team, this, that, and the third. And as more information started to come out, we started to see that maybe he isn't that clean cut guy, right? Maybe he is just like the rest of us. None of these people are perfect, right? But if you have those values and those principles.
I think Olay, you froze. Did he freeze for y'all too? I think he froze. Yeah. So Olay froze. For those who are listening to this later, obviously it's a Zoom call, so you freeze sometimes. But I'm gonna hop on that Deshaun Watson point. So again, I'm a big go do your research person. And so for those who want to go do their research, a lot of this stuff is public record. Nobody cannot say that he didn't display some very disgusting behavior to these women. Whether they were compensated, whether it was a setup or not, he displayed disgusting behavior, period. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a big problem where, again, we let culture as men dictate our behaviors, right? And, Olay, I'm just kind of hopping on your point because he froze and he came back. But I think this is the big thing, again, as you have to have your own narrative, a personal narrative of what success means. Because if you don't have your own set of being, knowing, doing, your own values, principles, right? Then what ends up happening is you end up being dictated by the wider narrative of like, yo, I'm supposed to be, or I am this, or even, and I think this is the worst one, especially in this day and age, is I should be, but you're comparing yourself to everybody else. And so what happens is you feel like I should be this person over here or that person over there, right? Or I should be in certain rooms. I should be having a certain entourage or whatever. And because of social media life, you start to play out these fantasies that aren't real. And then it's like, dang, but they have real consequences. So think about all the hundreds of thousands of lives affected by Deshaun Watson's behavior, which is just disgusting behavior. It was disgusting behavior. How many people's lives it affected? From fans to, do you know how many people probably lost their jobs off of the Texans sucking? And again, I applaud Lovie Smith because I don't know what you did in that offseason. You know what I'm saying? That defense is looking nice now. But anyway, I think Jamark was getting ready to say something. And then since Olay is back, so no, you good? Okay, Olay.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So yes, we were talking about learned behaviors, right? And then we went to the four aspects of culture. Especially, you did such a great job with this, man. Language. If you want to break down language goes, it's probably the most important because it identifies who can be communicated with, right? And then if you break that down, subcategories such as slang and, other languages that you have in different dealings, like at work and other places, right? Of course, we have location, we have traditions, and we have history. All of these things combined make up your identity of culture, right? So now that we've talked about that, I want us to go over how we be, know, do, right? What are the values, principles, characteristics? Where are the resources? And how do we execute with excellence when it comes to culture? We've kind of talked about this, but I want us to take a deeper look into it, okay? So off the top, what values, character traits, and principles do all cultures share, right? What values, character traits, and principles do all cultures share? And what do we do when we meet people of the same culture that have different values? And so that second question can kind of go two ways, right? You can say, what do we do when we meet people of the same culture that have different values? And what do we do when we meet people of different cultures that have different values? Okay, there's another way we can do that, but I won't talk about it right now. But yeah, let's start with that first part. What values, character traits, and principles do all cultures share? And I'll actually just give off a quick example about that. I think one of the things, and Festus, you kind of hit on it in the book, and I think we can all see that, right, is I think all cultures share the this altruistic view of just being good and doing good, right? And being and doing good, it encompasses like a couple of different things. And I'm just guessing off the top of my head. Some sort of honesty, being truthful, being respectful. I would say treating people the way you would like to be treated. So kind of like, I think that's called the golden rule. Do unto others as you would do unto yourself. For a certain level of respect for your elders, you know, these types of things. I feel like all cultures have these types of things. I know I love this moment because there've been so many times when I've been in the classroom and I've mentioned a quote or a saying, right? One of my favorite sayings is, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And I'll say these quotes in class and the students will be like, hey, in our country, we say this, and it's very similar. And it's a very profound moment, but I wonder if my students really grasp what's happening. And I don't think they do. I don't think they grasp that if you look at a map of the world and my parents are born in one side and your family is from another side, yet we have same values, what does that say about us? Right? Does that say that even though we don't look alike necessarily, that we still try to live our lives to a certain do we aspire to live our lives to a certain level, right? Is there a certain goal we try to reach? And so yes, that's the question I'm going to post to everyone. What are those values, characteristics, beliefs that we think all cultures, no matter where you're from, that you've seen in other people, that we try to live by, That's for anyone. That's for anyone.
Yeah, Jamar, go ahead. I thought I see you was going to say something, so I didn't want to hop in before you. I'm actually looking something up right now.
I don't know if you were going in this direction, but one of the things that I thought about that all different cultures basically share is a certain level of culture bias, which to me says the values and the principles and the way that we do is sometimes looked upon as the best for those persons belonging to that particular culture. So when we come into contact of a person of a different culture, you know, we tend to kind of look at them side eye, even though the same core value is there, but just because it looks different, you know, we kind of look at them in a certain way instead of kind of looking at it or from of seeking to understand, and we can come to that revelation that the basic principle of that may be similar. So that's where I think a certain level of culture bias is what we all kind of share.
Beautiful. That is not where I was going, but I'm so glad you went there.
Well, no, I think that's a deep point. I was gonna post something and I don't remember what it is, so I really don't want to speak on it too much. But there was a researcher, I think he was an anthropologist, who he went down and he looked at all the different cultures, or like 150 different cultures, and he actually made a map of that there's 60 similarities between all cultures and people groups that they all hold on to. And I think Jamark had a really good point in that everybody has biases, right? And even though we share these 60 things, we act like we don't. You know what I mean? And this is the thing. Sometimes it could hurt you. Sometimes it could actually benefit you. Because the thing is, like, a lot of people just don't look at the different cultural nuances that you can learn from other cultures that can actually benefit you. And I'll give an example. Especially growing up inner city, you're like quiet Asian kid, right? Look at that quiet Asian kid, whatever. And then the cultural bias is that all Asians are smart, when it's really an actual trait of their community to be like, put your head down, focus, and work. You see what I'm saying? And so now, if you come from the wrong bias and you say, or let me not even say the wrong bias, I'll try to hold off any judgment, but you come from a place that says our bias is against Asians for being this way. All they do is drive bad, make good food, you know what I'm saying? And do whatever, you know, and that's our bias against them, instead of looking at it and saying, wait a second. So you mean they focus on their families, they don't get caught up in mess, they mind their own business, and that's what makes them get ahead? You see what I'm saying? And so we can have a very negative way of looking at these different things, and then also expressing our biases in a way that, again, comes off negative. How can it be positive? Like, for example, gang culture. You know what I'm saying? There's certain ways that a person can move and talk that's going to let you know something's about to pop off. You see what I'm saying? And again, having a bias against that, and there's different gangs. We was bowling once, this was like years ago, and next thing you know, it was, and I don't know why we're talking about Asians so much, but we love Asians here too, okay? So, but yeah, we're bowling, and this group of Asians, like, a stabbing literally happened right next to us in the bowling alley, because it was some kind of clique that popped off, and somebody said something to somebody else. Next thing you know, it was like, blood, you know what I'm saying? And then the whole group was just like, and it was probably like 20 or 30 of them, you know what I'm saying? And it like popped off right next to us. Olay, wasn't that at your birthday? Were you in the bowling alley that time? I don't know. I could be tripping. Well, we was over here, and then years later, they just had a shooting at the same bowling alley. And this is the crazy part. The bowling alley is in one of the richest, nicest neighborhoods in the country, not just in the city of Houston. It was over in Memorial. So that same bowling alley, a couple years later, there was a killing there like 2 months ago. Right? And so this is the thing. So oftentimes we have our biases, you know, again, and you know, I'll stop after this, but our biases, man, I'm gonna go to this nice neighborhood and go bowling. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing that other people have that same intention. And this is the big piece that I hope everybody takes away from this, is that it doesn't matter where you're from, it matters where you at. And people take where they're from and bring it to where they're at. Olay's about to hop on that. So again, let me go and shut up. Olay, do your thing, bro.
No, talk. I was just like, I just happened to be on that page. I just happened to be on that page, so I just thought it was awesome that you said that. I'm like, hey, that's Key Principle 13 in the LYS book, available on Amazon for only $11.99. Was it $13.99?
I think it's like $13.99.
$13.99. Go ahead, D Hill.
Man, I had to jump on that, Festus. Boy, what you said was something. It's not where you're from, it's where you at. Man, that's like when people move. That's like I be looking like people move to my neighborhood now. I was like, man, you moved away from the hood, but you trying to bring the hood where you are. Like, you moved away from people wilding, but you trying to wild over here. Like, what is wrong with y'all? Like I'm over here like, if y'all don't calm down, because them acting crazy makes me want to go back and act crazy. It's like, okay, since y'all act the fool, let me act the fool and show you. Let me be a cool real quick. Because I'd be like,
let me show y'all how it's done.
What you said, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, you get a chance to do better, like how Crawford said, like, you know what I'm saying? We just keep on, our own enemy is ourselves, bro. Like, we get a chance to do better, but when we get the better chance, we screw it up, bro. Like, you come in, somebody give you a house, you literally tear the house down. And then mad when it's tore down. Like, why are you mad when it's tore down, bro? It's just crazy like that, man. I'm sorry, man. I just had to get on my soapbox, how y'all say. I'm like, man, I be tired of that.
I just want to know the name of that bowling alley so I can know not to go.
Man, they gonna come over here soon.
I just want to put it out there. I like living.
What is that? I'll tell you the street it's on. I think it's off of Bunker Hill. You know what I'm saying? So anybody tell you go to Bunker Hill, be like, oh no, man, I'm straight.
Oh man. No, I mean, no, absolutely. All valid points, man. All valid points. This conversation on culture is so, I feel like it's very, very necessary right now because I love The Office, and there's a quote that Andy Bernard said that has stuck with me ever since I heard it. And it was such a powerful quote. And when I say it, you understand why. Andy Bernard said, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't do it right. I wish that someone would have told me that I was in the good old days while they were happening. It's essentially what he said.
Ooh, that's fire.
When you go back and you think about the good old days, right? He's saying, I wish I would have known that right then and there. Someone was telling me that these are going to be the days that you look back on and just have nothing but nostalgic, happy feelings. And the reason why it literally changed my way of thinking is because anytime I'm fellowshipping or I'm talking with, friends, new or old, or I'm just in a state of, euphoria, just very happy. Anytime I do things that I did as a kid, I just had this moment where I'm just like, just enjoy this, man. Just enjoy this. Not only because my knees hurt more now, but just, just because, it's just one of those feelings that you ever just like, I hope I can enjoy this moment. And so I say all that because we are living right now in a very, very, very unique time in our, I want to say our world history, a very
100%.
unique time.
100%.
You think about where we are in technology, where we are socially, where we are culturally, where we are financially. All of these things are being intertwined, and all of these things are being challenged very, very heavily, very hard, and very harshly, right? It's a funny thing I saw the other day, but, and me and Hill joked to me, Hill was joking about it with me and Crawford. There was a video where a guy and a girl were walking in a store inside of a department store or a mall, and the attendant goes, "Oh, you can't have that phone in here." And the guy goes, "Oh, it's okay. She identifies as a camera." And the attendant looks at the girl and goes, "Is that true? Do you identify as a camera?" And the lady's like, "Yes, I do." And the attendant just looks defeated. She just looked like I could feel her shoulders like just give way. She's like, "Yes, I do identify as a camera." And she's like, "This is a hard time for all of us." And she's just like, "Oh, but it's like, that's where we are. So think about that. That's a social issue, a culture issue, a technology issue, all intertwined into one, right? We talk about the crypto revolution and money and how all of these things play a part. One of my co-teachers told me to try a new coffee place. And this is how I know I'm not only a digital native, but I'm also a digital immigrant. We were born right in the middle. If you're in your 30s or early 40s, you're right in the middle of being a digital native, which is someone who was born into the digital revolution, or a digital immigrant, which is like our parents' generation, who kind of like was born way before it and like just lived into it, right? It just came about as they were living. I get there and she's like, you should try this coffee. And I'm like, cool. So I have I'm doing the Ramsey plan. For those of you who don't know, if Dave Ramsey, he has an envelope plan where you put your money for all these different things. You put money in your envelopes, right? And so I take a little bit of money and I go there and I'm like, yeah, let me get the iced coffee, yada, yada, yada. And I get there and they're like, and she's like, gives me the total. I had exact change. And I hand it to her and she goes, and she gives me the dreaded, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're cashless." Ooh. And I was like, "But I have the money right here." And she's like, "I'm sorry." And like, there's literally nothing can happen from here. Nothing can happen from here. And I had that moment where I was just like, "You young whippersnappers." Now I feel I almost feel like that's the equivalent of like writing a check, because I know when I would go to the store and I would see that late, and I never got mad, but there would be some days where I'd be like, "Bruh, really?" But like, she pulls out the check and she's like, "What's the date? Who should I make this out to? What's my total? 9782. And she's like writing it all in there. And so it's just this funny thing because I had that moment. I was just like,
bro, but you're speaking on something that's actually way more powerful than any of us really imagine, right? And that is cash represents legal tender. And when people are no longer accepting legal tender, right? So that means it's a representation of a transaction. What then becomes legal tender? Right? And so this is where a lot of people, this is scary. This is very scary because as you start to, not you, but just us in general, start to adopt some of these cryptos and stuff like that, right? If cash is no longer legal tender, which that I've seen, there has not been a public announcement of that transition, which is also very scary. Because then that means we are in a position or a place where you're technically at a barter system right now. That's where you're technically at. You see what I'm saying? And so what is this person accepting in exchange during this transaction? And so that's a big thing because that either means A, our government no longer has control of managing transactions, or B, the management of transactions has now been moved in such a way that people no longer know. And that means somebody or something is controlling it way outside of your control and your acceptance. And that's very scary. It's kind of like, again, when they moved off of the gold standard, right? Those who are younger probably don't know this. You could go and exchange your money, your legal tender, your dollar, you could exchange that for a piece of actual metal, which now we're in this, what they call fiat currency, right? Which again, is just an exchange of legal tender. So again, what was behind that legal tender? I don't want to go too far into this, but that change and transformation of culture is huge. It's huge. And we need to really pay attention to it. I know Jamark was going to say something, and then Olay, if you want to close us out, and then we got to
Absolutely.
You guys go right ahead. This is just so interesting. Go ahead.
All right, for sure.
It sounds like part 2 next week.
Yeah, part 2 next week. Yes, definitely part 2 next week. It's funny. I called Hill before we started, and I was like, "Yeah, I gotta sit down here." And I always tell y'all how we come up with these topics, man. But it's just so crazy how we come up with these topics, and man, the Lord just takes it and takes it and runs with it, man. We drop fire, we drop jewels out here, so it's really awesome. So yes, definitely next week we will be doing part 2 on culture, be, know, do, and how it currently affects us, and what do we need to know, what do we need to be, how do we need to be, how do we know, what do we need to know, and how do we execute with excellence? All right. Festus, you want to close us out?
Yeah. So with that being said, again, Jamark, thank you for joining us. Daniel, thank you for joining us. Olay, always, thank you for leading. Listen, there are legitimate excuses for not going to college. There is no legitimate excuse for not getting an education. I am Festus Amoye. We are Laddering Success. Please join the movement. Hit the follow button. Hit the share button. We'll see you next time. All right. Be blessed.
Oh, you still there? Well, thank you so much for listening to the LYS Podcast.